Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the PCN podcast. Welcome back. I'm Brazilian. Alongside me, as usual, we got AJ and Dorsey. Adding on to our panel today of lovely faces, we have the one, the only Ricky Royal, Hinkley, Fizzy, Kapue, and Boss Artilles. And before we get into this week's podcast, just like to thank our sponsor, Furoshi, for giving PCN the greatest gift it never asked for.
Yay!
Let's get into it.
Anyway, let's go ahead and get into our discussion of the preseason cup from last night. Juventus did take another preseason cup. This is a specialty of theirs. Were able to win 3 1-0 games in a row, their last 3 games, and won it all. But I think I'm going to start off just kind of some of the 4 teams that kind of impressed me the most that, maybe weren't expecting to go as far as they did. First would be Spurs. Made it all the way to the final. Had shutouts in the first 4 games, only conceded the 1 goal and the 1-0 loss to Juve at the end. So, Brazilian, were you there for that game last night?
I sure was. In fact, I was kind of just perplexed by our whole run. So, we were playing a pretty unorthodox lineup in the absence of Will, our captain. So, we were kind of like, okay, we'll play this first game and get it done with. We'll lose and crash out, and then we can enjoy the rest of our evening. Turns out we won that. Second game, we're like, well, I guess, where are we going to go from here? 2 games after the second game, we're like, well, I guess we kind of have to, go for it now.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want to play in it because it was getting late, but it just kind of worked out that we kept scraping by, with 1-0 wins until we met Ajax. Ajax was a different story, but we were playing Bauer, who's one of our goalkeepers at striker. He bagged a hat trick. It was just kind of all over the place, but it was fun. I'm really looking forward to this season. This group of guys is pretty great.
And so the next thing I kind of want to touch on was Ajax. I think you outplayed them on the whole. And they got a couple. I think they just kind of went forward at the end. You got a couple late goals to make the scoreline worse than it was, but they beat 3 Super League teams en route to a semifinal appearance, and one of those teams was my team for the season, Manchester City, and it was a pretty even game. They got a couple chances that went in, and we couldn't really argue too much about it. So Ajax, it's a lot of the guys who were on Chivas last year in Super League who scraped by in 16th. Just kind of they played with 6 or 7 or 8 a lot of times, and they had a full 11 last night and seemed so much more organized, so much more just sort of had the idea of what they wanted to do, and so they kind of put themselves on the radar a little bit last night, getting all the way to the semifinals, I think. Third team I wanted to talk about was Barcelona. They had a really good performance last night. They beat 2 teams got promoted last year from Division 1 in Bayer Leverkusen and Inter Milan, and then lost a really close 1-0 game against River Plate in the quarterfinals. So shout out to them. And then the last team is another team that made it to the quarterfinals, and that would be Hinkley. That would be your AC Milan, beating Atlanta, Monaco, and then another tight 1-0 loss to a Super League power in Juventus. So how would you rate your performance last night?
Especially recently, we've kind of lost some players on our team, so we've kind of had to not really struggle to put a team out, but kind of struggle to get chemistry and find the right 11. I would mostly say because we have players. It's just a matter of finding the way that best fits us. And last night we went with a formation that we kind of didn't really know if we wanted to tried it, and it shows we played strong defensively, but the attack was really what kind of hindered us in most of the games. Especially in the Juventus game, as we gave up the 1 goal that was sloppy, and we just weren't able to mount anything in the attack, really, the rest of the game.
That was kind of my just general thoughts, teams I was impressed by that maybe you wouldn't expect as much as they did last night. So anyone else who played in it last night, if you have any kind of insights into your team and what happened, good or bad?
Just want to say big ups to Hinkley and AC Milan. It was a good match.
Yeah, agreed. It was a great game.
Anyway, so that was our preseason cup last night. I had a lot of fun playing and then being able to watch the last couple hours. So thanks everyone who showed out for that. Everyone showed up and played, which is always good to see. We will go ahead and move on to our Super League preview. So we're just going to go alphabetically. It'll be the easiest way to kind of go through it. Leading off, we have Arsenal, who are coming in this season with Edgar 11 Ramos as the manager, who managed last year's Ajax in League One. We brought a lot of the same team from last year back, and then there's also, of course, some new faces, and it'll just be interesting to see how they get on up in the higher league and, how they can adapt to that. So Ramos is actually a late arrival here, and fortunately Ricky has dropped out because it is hopping over there at Gizmos. But anyway, we got Ramos here. So Ramos, what are your thoughts on Arsenal right now?
So we got about half the team from last season. We've added some nice additions to the team. The team is looking good again. The cup isn't exactly what we wanted, but it's all right. It's just a cup. But as far as the team goes, we're all on the same page. We're playing. It feels like we're really clicking. Other than that, which is because it's going to be a fun season, and we look forward to fighting and contending for the title.
Yeah. So do you think everyone's ready to make that step up into Super League?
Oh yeah, definitely. Everyone's so excited even from last season when the cup. How we took out several Super League teams. Everyone's ready. They're excited. They want to go out there and be the best.
For you guys who played against them last year when they were Ajax, how do you think they're going to fare in Super League?
Ramos always builds a core group of players, and he gets the right people, I think, to complement his play style and the style he wants to run. And from my experience playing them, they're always a pretty solid outfit. The result last night might not have truly reflected their ambitions or their how they were going forward with it, but I think they're going to be a good shout in the Super League this season.
Yeah, I agree too. Just with Ramos, he tends to put a good team together, and then they get stronger. So it wouldn't surprise me if they made a run.
Next team up is going to be Atlanta United. Got a couple people here with some expertise on them tonight. So Boss Ortiles has taken over from Vaccine, who's now a co-manager, and it seems to be some of the same core from last year. Obviously, some new faces. I think the two biggest additions they just made were Swifty from Man U and Snowboarder from PSG. So to me, this looks like a team that can definitely challenge for top 4, top 6. How do you guys kind of rate your chances? Where do you think you're going to finish?
Definitely in the top 5. We just have a good group of guys. I think every day we keep working harder, get closer to wins. Unlucky preseason cup, but it's only preseason. We got to see what happens in regular season.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, good group of guys, and we all, we got some chemistry going now. So I think we'll make it there, top 5.
If there's any kind of weaknesses, anything that could maybe hold you back, what do you think that would be?
Our attack. We just need to get more possession. Strikers need to finish. We need to put numbers on the board.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has something to do with FIFA 19, and everybody's just kind of adapting to it. It's a little bit different, especially when it comes to attacking.
Last night when we had the games, you guys definitely was not a very open game on either side. It was pretty 50-50 throughout the whole entire game, and honestly, no matter if we won or you guys won, I feel like that game could honestly have just gone either way, no matter how it was. Because I feel like defensively, we both just played very, very strong, and on the attack, we were just shutting each other down the whole time.
I can agree to that. That's a good statement.
So next up is Bayer Leverkusen. It's very similar to last season's champions when I was looking at their team today. The biggest difference is just a change in manager. Rio decided to leave after the season, and Darcy took over. The big additions, I think, this season for them outside of the team are going to be Crack and Misfit. And it's another team, I think, kind of like Arsenal and really all the 4 teams that got promoted. I think they're going to be in an area where, they might think they're going to finish top 4, maybe challenge for a title. I think that's a little much your first season in the next league up. But I think that all these 4 teams should really do well and compete at this level. And I think they proved that last year with some of their performances in friendlies and just whenever they got into cup games against the Super League teams. All right, well, moving on down the list, Bayern Munich. Alex is officially taking over as full-time manager this season after he was helping Ricky out last season. A lot of new faces in there, and, Alex is a notorious recruiter. He'll get, if someone's not cutting it 1 week, he'll get someone in the next. Whether they work out or not remains to be seen, but he's always going to chop and change until he finds something he likes. So I think he's going to rely on veterans like Meat Train, Piro, Ionator. These are guys who've been playing for a long time to kind of help him out. I think mid-table will be a good result for them. I could see them, if things don't go well, kind of like last season, slipping into a relegation battle. But, I do wish my old team well.
Yeah, there was a major shift in Bayern. At least the thing that I'm curious to see going forward is that now that it's a new FIFA, like what will change, you know, because last year we talked a little bit about players that, and to be, I guess, washed isn't the correct word, but players that, you know, like didn't adapt properly to like that level of FIFA, that style of play. Maybe this year it'll be different for them and they'll have, you know, better results. Some of the players that thrived earlier in PCN's history, maybe they'll start coming back up again. Who knows?
Not the next team, but the team after that, we will talk about, have a lot of the same kind of players, so that'll be interesting to see. Before we get to them, Benfica, Bidon is in charge once again, bringing them up last year from League One, and to bring it's a lot of the same team that finished so hot in Division One. Last season, they basically became a team after the third game day, and after that, finished as hot as anyone in that league. And so, I'm really curious to see how they do with another newly promoted team that should, you know, could finish anywhere, I think, from top six-ish to just kind of mid-table. Last season, the three teams that got promoted finished 8th, ninth, and 10th. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that in your first season in the new league. So,
If I could say one thing, is that playing with Louis the past 2 days, believe it or not, he looks better than he did last year. So that's kind of a scary thought.
next team up, which is the team I was just kind of hinting at, is Chelsea. So Panic is going to manage. He is unretiring, and he is bringing back just a straight old school PCN team. He's got the combination of Medic and Arambe. He's got GC the Reaper, General Vels, Mexican Jedi Tony, just a bunch of guys who've played a lot of PCN. My biggest concern with them right now is they're just they don't have a full squad. You know, if they struggle to have everyone show up on game days, or a couple of those old guys don't adapt as well. It's a team I think mid-table is where they likely will finish, but if things don't go right, you know, maybe a little bit lower. We'll see how they do. Next up is going to be that last newly promoted team in Inter Milan. Cuvavelli decided in the end to return as manager and bring back a lot of the same squad, similar to Benfica. And what's curious to me to see is that they started last year so strong and the defense was so outstanding. And as the season went on, they faded a little bit. Were able to get promoted, but it'd be interesting to see if they can kind of push on and, you know, really impress people, or if they're going to maybe slip into the kind of mid-table area for this first season.
Didn't they lose part of their back line last year, or was it intact all year?
So they lost Dan and Spurs to Leverkusen in the last 2 weeks of the season, and they weren't the same team in the end of the last 2 or 3 weeks. But, you know, they have had how many months to kind of figure those things out, so, you know, I wouldn't doubt them. Next team up, I think, is most people's favorite at this point to win this year's title. Juventus look as stacked as they ever have. The biggest change for me, though, is just it's the change at the top, though. It's Dad Job becoming manager, Italiano, taking a step back this season. So big shoes to fill there, but the core of the team that's gotten so many good results the last few seasons is still there. And I really can't even mention all the great players they've added. It's in every position in the field. You know, they've got 24 people on the roster. All those players are capable, so they're looking like the top dog. They look like they're really hungry to get back on top after a season where they finished fourth. And I don't know. I'm a little bit scared to play them. How about you guys?
Man, and Juve's looking super stacked, but it'll definitely be interesting to see how they pan out all season, you know, with so many top players. And
I don't know. I feel like after Spain kind of proved the point that good players don't mean toxic. I just think at this point, not to call it early, I would think personally that Juve are currently one of the favorites.
I think in an international tournament, it's only 2 or 3 weeks, so, you know, Ito's not going to be as bruised. This is a 2-month season, so I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but, you know, I'm assuming at some point there will be players that are like, hey, I thought I'd be getting more games, and that could be an issue. The thing that maybe just from last night I noticed was they weren't blowing people out of the water. They were beating everybody by 1 or 2 goals. They weren't scoring a whole bunch. And, you know, maybe that's just an early season thing, but it'll be interesting to see if maybe their attack does have a few issues gelling at the start of the season, at least.
But their defense is solid as hell, dude.
I wouldn't really discredit them, I think they have a really great team. I'm really excited to play them to see what they're made out of. Hopefully, they're good as they seem to be and don't crash and burn. Just hope everyone can keep up in that league. We want to be competitive in this league. We don't want Warriors against, like the New York Knicks. We want good teams going against good teams.
Yep. Yeah, so looking forward, I think everyone's looking forward to that challenge of playing them, and they're going to have the eyes on them and the target on their back all season. So we'll see how it goes. Next team up is going to be Lazio. So Online Ace is moving over from Roma to manage Lazio this season. And got to be a little brutally honest, it's looking like it might be a bit of a tough season right now. I know he's struggling to get people on. I think he's only got like 6 or 7 signed right now. And 2 of his kind of longtime stalwarts that have been with him through those 3 seasons, the last 3 seasons, were Albino and Lucid, and those guys are both gone now. So there's people who have different opinions about Ace, but the one thing I know about him is he cares about his team, and he's going to do what he can to get the pieces in. And so right now I think they're a team that may be facing a relegation battle, but you just never know. They surprised some people last season with some really big results, and curious to see what he does filling out the rest of that roster. Next up is Liverpool. Rowdy, once again, is going to be managing them for the 3rd season running now. Look, it's another team that returns a lot of the previous season's core. And for me, there's just maybe not enough depth or new kind of top flight additions to really push on from where they finished last year in mid-table. So that's just kind of where I expect them to finish this year as well. Next team for me is probably one of the 2 biggest wild cards for season 9, Lyon. So Leek is back again for another season. This is going to be his 5th season in charge of Lyon. And he kept a few of the core players from last season's disappointing, I think, 12th place finish. But he's got some new really good players in there. He's got Albino, he's got Phil the Fish, Criminal Vidal, he's got Pep. This is a team I think they could finish in the top 6. I think they could finish mid-table again. Just a lot of it's going to come down to how that team gels. It didn't gel really last year, but we'll see how it does here in Season 9. Brazilian, have you been talking to Leek or looking at their team at all? What do you think?
I actually helped Girk Daddy find a way on. I think, they've got a good-looking team now, especially now that Phil's done his part, I guess is the nicest way to put it, of bringing some top-class players to that team. So maybe this is Lyon's revitalization season. A lot yet to be seen, but I like to see teams do well. It's one of my former teams, and I like Leek a lot. Leek's a good guy. I feel like he's been a bit unlucky in his managerial stint, so if he can get some good form this season, it'd be good for him.
I agree. And next on the list is my new team for the season, Manchester City. So Last King, who was last year's Arsenal manager, brings, I think it's maybe 5 or 6 of the same people from that team are going to be coming over. And it's kind of we're sort of the international European team for Season 9 in Super League, at least. We got people from all over Europe. We got like 4 or 5 Americans. Just an interesting mix of people so far. And that's kind of where we're struggling a little bit, is we haven't played a bunch together, all of us. Chemistry isn't quite there. We added some big players. Fozzie's on board. Unix is on board. Hoping that Gaston comes back at some point. So I think for us, we know the talent is there. If things come together, we can definitely push, maybe make a title run. Definitely going to finish, I think, in the top half, top 6 hopefully. But it's just going to come down to how the chemistry goes, how we gel as a team. The talent is there. I believe we'll get it going. Just might be a little slow to start. That's kind of my biggest worry with us. And then moving over to the other side of Manchester, we got United, and so Magic is once again returning with Begod up top. Last year's deadly strike duo. Trying to improve upon last year's 3rd place, but that may be a little bit tough this season. They lost some key players in the offseason. Did add a couple quality additions in Fencing Guy, Cream Cheese, and a few others. So I think this is a team that's definitely going to challenge for top 4, top 6. And I think just seeing how they kind of replace those people and kind of push on from last year's kind of disappointing end will kind of determine where they end up this season. Anybody got any thoughts on either Manchester club?
I've actually been following City, seeing you guys' signings, and it looks like it's going to be a very nice stacked squad. But I haven't seen you guys play at all, I think. So
yeah,
that's kind of what I'm like, see how that goes.
if we get the chemistry, we get the gelling, we figure out a formation and a system, I think we can go really far, but there's things to work on right now as the second round exit to IX shows from last night.
Yeah, definitely.
Next team up is going to be New York City, another mid-table team returning their managers and a lot of the same team. Team that finished 8th last year, I think that's kind of around where they're probably going to finish this year. It's a solid squad. I just don't know if they have kind of the proven high-end talent to really push on from there, but it's a deep enough squad. It's well organized. I know those guys know what they're doing, so I'd expect them to be around in the same area this season. Next is going to be Orlando, who unfortunately we're not going to really see a true title defense from them. J-Way and the rest of his gang are not going to be coming back. Some of them are going to be playing still this season, but J-Way and others are not going to. So Vision was actually just given manager, I think yesterday or the day before. So he's just got a tough task of trying to recruit a team here right before the season starts. So, they're also another wild card, a team that just depending on how recruiting goes, they could surprise people, finish a little further up. But, for now, I think with them having such a late start on recruiting and having such a small roster, seems like a team that maybe just will end up in a relegation battle. But, I hope Vision can get things together.
Vision's been going pretty ham last 24 hours trying to get players.
Yes, he has. Next up is PSG, who another longtime manager and stay high player is returning. But just like the last 2 or 3 seasons, just more and more of his top end players are deciding to leave and go to other places. And this is after their worst finish under Stay High. And so fencing and snowboard are 2 of the key players. And his team's last couple seasons are now gone. Hopefully players like Feroci and Stride can help out. But I know he's been still desperately trying to get a CDM, center back, maybe a goalie. So at this point, I think probably mid-table is where they're going to finish again. I just see too many departures every season for them. So it's really tough to deal with, I think. And next up is probably the other kind of neutrals favorite for the title in River Plate. It's a bit of a new. It's some of the same people from last year, but there are also a lot of departures. But then there are also at the same time there's a lot of quality new faces. Proven guys like Evan, Jigsaw, Eric, Peanut, Gummy, Twinkie. I mean, that's a lot of really good players to add to a team. So it's really going to come down to, I think, how Thon does managing. There's been mixed reviews on that from people in the community, and I'm really excited to see how they come together. Though they've lost. It's going to have to come together for them to really come and challenge Juve. And I'd just be curious, after the collapse of last season, for the guys that were there for that, how do they respond? How do they come back stronger this season? So any of you guys think that River Plate can really make a title push this season?
I think so. River Plate, a lot of them play a lot pretty often. I play them not on a daily basis, but pretty consistent. And they always give us a pretty tough time. They're a good group of players, and they play pretty often together. So definitely be interesting to see how they play throughout the season.
The end of their last season wasn't the way they wanted to end it. Obviously, an inspired performance from Orlando as well helped them secure that. But I think River Plate might be coming out, not as strong, but still strong, just maybe not as strong, but with a vengeance. I think the vengeance might be what drives them to play at a higher level than they might have, or I guess to pick up where they left off on their best foot instead of where they struggled to pick up the points in their final run of games.
There's just like a new dimension to them. I think, I don't know, watching them last season and watching them this season, it's just the attack is different. They attack much better this season, much quicker. They have a lot of creative players. They're just different this season. It's going to be interesting to see how they play this season.
I think while Kessie was amazing last season and he's now with Juve, losing a player like that never is a good thing, but I think they were just so reliant on him last year when he wasn't around towards the end of the season a little bit. They didn't have a good plan of how to attack. And so I think this season, Eric is coming in to help replace him. And, if the rest of the attack is just better on the whole, even if no one player plays as good as Kessie does, I think, I agree with you. I think that can help their attack out. Almost done with our Super League preview. Got a couple teams left. So we have Roma, so Mojado and Rayado, who helped to run last season's Chelsea. Bringing some of those players with them over to Roma. Got some fresh new faces like Splinter and Sign Diver. It's a team that I think is going to be pretty satisfied in the end with just a fun, kind of easygoing mid-table season. You know, everyone I think always has ambitions higher than that, but looking at their team, the depth they have, I think it'd be a tough ask for them to finish much higher than that. Second to last team, Schalke. So this is, I think, next to Lyon to me is the biggest wild card in the entire league, because this is the only team that's kind of a brand new to PCN team in the Super League. So there's a few players that have a little bit of experience, but there's a lot of new guys, and so you just never know when you get a team that comes in with people who haven't played in the league that a lot of people don't even really know outside of that. So, you know, they could finish anywhere in the league really, just because they're such an unknown. And I don't know if any of you guys know them or played them or have any thoughts on them.
So I've played with most of those guys on that roster pretty often, and they're a pretty good team, and they definitely know how to attack and defend pretty well. So I see them being maybe one mid-table, maybe top. But they're a good team. Can definitely hold their ground, so it'll be interesting to watch them as well.
And then last but not least, we have Young Boys. So Bone is going to be the new manager, taking over from Fozzie last season, and the Bauer brothers are finally together at last. They're going to be playing the season with Young Boys, and to me, it's a lot of interesting parts, and I'm thinking somewhere in mid-table is where they'll end up, but they're kind of one of the teams I know kind of the least about how they're going to gel and play, so I'm excited to see what they do. Let's go ahead and move on to League One. Brazilian?
League One! You know, I was a lot more optimistic about the season before y'all bunkheads decided to move Minnesota up. But that's none of my business. But, you know, I'm really looking forward to League One season. It's a new opportunity. A lot of people are kind of not jumping ship. A lot of people are wanting to test the waters and see what it's like in the lower leagues. So, you know, as far as my team goes, Spurs, I think we've set up pretty well. We've got a good pool of players, and I think, you know, here going forward, we should be contending for top 3, top 4, hopefully hoping for promotion, I'd say. Anyone else? Like AJ, what about you? Like, what about your team?
Shoot, man, our team, Jesus. We chose to lose the first game. We had a very busy night. We had to go out, meet politicians, and do whatnot. So we had no choice but to lose the first game. We lost it against a very good Roma team with their whole squad. We'll see how it goes. All I can say is that we got a lot more players this year than we had last year. We're having to tell people you're not playing tonight, you're not playing tonight, you're not playing tonight, which can be a little disconcerting, but the core group has just gotten better. So I'm actually just more looking forward to who we're going to play against. I don't think we've played a League One team yet. Every team we've played has been a Super League team.
I'll talk about Milan a little bit for AC Milan. Quad is one of the original Milan guys. I mean, we definitely have a lot of new guys brought in. Like, I played with Quad, and we have a couple of guys we brought over from Porto. But the majority of the team pretty much are guys that have never played together. I mean, we have Chronic, Cozy, some guys in the attack with me and Quad who never played with each other before. So it's just a matter of us gelling together, hopefully, as a team. And like AJ and like Brazilian, we want to hopefully aim for a top 4 and try to get a promotion spot as a team.
Yep, I agree with that.
I think Minnesota, like you kind of mentioned, Brazilian, they were scheduled to be a League 2 team, but it was really looking like they were just going to absolutely just destroy that league. And so Jakub and Chubbs were wondering if they could get the move up to League 1 for the season, and we decided to let that happen. And so I think Milan, Minnesota, and Spurs to me are the kind of the 3 title favorites. And I think behind them, I think the teams I'm looking most forward in promotion are going to be Napoli. I think Ajax, Atletico Madrid is putting together a really nice squad. Barcelona and Real Madrid, and I'm looking forward to see those two play because it's Barcelona and Real Madrid, but it's also K-City and it's King Smurf, who had a lot of beef last season, and League One, I love when there's beef going on because it makes it that much more fun. Milan and Napoli's gotten some stuff going on, so
I don't even know what you're talking about, man. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Keep an eye on Dortmund. They're a sleeper.
Napoli's going to take it.
I can tell you that now.
All right. Napoli's going to take their spot to stay in D1. I'll put it out there now.
Staying D1 or win D1?
Staying.
Win but stay.
Exactly. When do we know we can stay? And then we'll just coast.
So you mentioned Dortmund, so I know they just got a new manager. What do you?
Sutter Tiger.
Yeah, so I recognize.
yeah.
I know he's been around. So do you know the kind of squad he's putting together?
I don't, but I know what he's capable of putting together. He brought me into the league a couple seasons ago, and when he brought me in, the team was pretty good. It's just we were like fourth place, I think, third place once he stepped down, maybe 3/4 of the way. He was just having trouble getting people on, but even then, we still fought with Pete. We still fought. We got fourth place. So I know he's definitely capable of bringing in good players. I'm excited to see what he can bring back to the table because he hasn't played in about two and a half seasons now. So.
Then there's just the rest of the teams in the league. I mean, some of them are just still recruiting. Some of them just got given managers, earlier this week or last week, and so there's just a little bit more unknowns. Most of the teams in Super League were returning their managers, or maybe the manager switched to a different team. But it was a lot of consistency, I think, from the previous season. And I think at League One, you have maybe eight or 10 teams that are kind of established. You know what they're gonna. You can kind of know what to expect. And I think the rest of them, at this point, I don't think there's anyone we can really say is a
hot garbage, man.
Hot garbage or anything. Benfica was a bad team for the first 3 game days, and then their manager left, and Bidon took over, and all of a sudden that's a team that gets promoted. Teams are just going to come out of nowhere in League One and League Two, and there's probably going to be at least 1 or 2 of the teams that we haven't really mentioned. It's not that we're disrespecting you guys, but 1 or 2 of you guys are probably going to really surprise us and impress us, and it's just that we don't really know you yet. So, but now it's your chance. The season's starting on Sunday. Make sure we talk about you. Impress.
You'll be covered.
Yeah.
Impress us. Impress on the field. You'll be covered.
I think PSV is maybe one of those teams to look out for too. I know ending the season last season they ended off pretty strong. Their roster does look a little small, but
that's my concern with them is because I know they got a couple of really solid guys. Just got to have the full 11s. You got to have a little bit of depth on top of that to really compete for promotion.
I don't know if he already has him and maybe hasn't signed him yet, but
I'm sure in a week, or even once this gets published, I'm going to get some heat from some people. But in a week, all of us could look really stupid for some things we said tonight. So
we could. Yeah. The one thing I want to say though, going forward, my team, Napoli. If you call for 10 minutes, when 10 minutes comes, I'm sending. No, this needs to be said. I'm sending my invites and recording them. All right. After I get to 3, I'm going on to my next match. I'm just letting that be known. If you play us, I'm going to have a strict 10-minute policy. That's it. Going forward. Thank you.
All right, Benito.
Any more thoughts on League One this season? I'm curious to see how it follows up last season, because last season was definitely the best League One season we've had. And while the teams that got promoted, I think were really good and will do well in Super League, I think this season could be just as good, top to bottom.
Yeah, I think it's going to be better myself. I really do. I think it's just going to be better with all the guys dropping Super League and the attention on it. I've seen a couple of the S1 teams have just been like, yeah, I think it's going to be the most difficult season in Super League and League One, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a very difficult year.
Well, that's what I find. Hopefully it'll be fun, especially when cups come around. It's going to be up to what team is going to be playing better. I mean, of course, it's always like that, but it's not going to be, I feel like, as simple as most likely the Super League team is going to win just because they're on, quote-unquote, supposed to be a better team.
I would love to see more of the lower teams getting through and making these, like what happened last night in the preseason cup, where 2 of the semifinalists were, I think 5 of the quarterfinalists were from League One, 4 or 5, and then 2 of the semifinalists and 1 of the finalists were all from League One. But like last year, I know in the Royal Cup, out of the teams that got to the round of 16, there were only 2 teams from League One. Everyone else was a Super League team. So, one League Two teams cups, that's your chance. Like, make it count.
Yeah, League One would definitely be good. I know I'll definitely be keeping up. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Move on to League Two. So, I don't think anyone here is really a bit of an expert. I don't even know if you really know your competition yet. But just from maybe playing a couple of those teams or looking at their rosters and building yours, what are your kind of thoughts so far on how it's going to go?
The League Two is the like new one, and pretty much there's going to be new teams about. And I reckon I've already seen a couple of teams that have a full team, and I'm pretty much scared already about them. But I'm looking forward to it.
I just threw up on the carpet, guys.
Are you a cat?
No, I took the shot that I should have taken. Give me 5 minutes.
I think this should be discussed because everyone's been complaining about it. And I'm air quoting this, the goal kick glitch, as they all say, even though it's a rule in soccer.
The one thing I understand is it's a rule in soccer, but the game, it's more of an exploit that, because what goalie is going to be able to kick that far consistently? I understand that there's no offsides on goal kicks in soccer, but personally, I don't care if a team does it against me, because the only thing that's going to make my team to do is pay attention on defense and drop instead of sitting there and lollygagging and not paying attention. Teams that are going to be aware of it are going to be able to take advantage of it and have the upper hand.
That's what separates the best from the worst. You got to have your defender ready to go.
And PCN, I feel like we're not really playing a true style of soccer or football. We're playing how FIFA is, and that's how competitive FIFA is. You're not trying to replicate how other teams play in real life. You need to play the way that this game works and ways you can take advantage of how everything works in the game.
All it is really is a big lump up pitch, and then a player could go 1-on-1 and score easy.
What I've seen when I've been playing in seasons game, divisions games is like the teams that have more may just exploit it. But what I saw last night when I was watching one of the streams is when teams were trying it, it wasn't working because the other team was just putting a few guys back in defense. They were marking it up, and then it's just a longer kick, but it's not like this super cheesy. Even if you don't have a full back line, as long as you're putting players back there and you're aware of that it's happening, it's not impossible to stop.
And the thing is, I think when we were playing, I think it was Monaco, we tried it. We hit it long, and they won the header, and then they went on a counterattack because our team wasn't ready for anything to be countered from that. So if you can win a header there and your team defensively after the kick is not paying attention, you're going to be possibly countered there. And that's something that teams are going to take advantage of if you're not paying attention defensively after the kick.
Yeah, so hopefully it won't become a big issue. It's the beginning of the new FIFA cycle, and so there's going to be other things that maybe aren't glitches per se or some controversy yet, but there's going to be something in 2 or 3 weeks that we're all talking about that's happening in games or that's happening with friendlies. And so my biggest thing with everyone so far to start the season and just going forward is just bear with each other, and if there are issues going on, try to work it out and just try to get along and make the season as easy for each other as possible, because then we'll all have fun, we'll all enjoy it, and it'll be the best season yet. So that's all I got. Thanks for coming on, all of you guys. There's no final thoughts. I guess we are.
Just make sure you make use of Furoshi's present.
The gift. Yes.
Best of luck to everyone this season.
Absolutely.
I'll see you Sunday, AJ.
Well, that's all we got time for this week. Stay tuned. Good luck in your games this week, everyone, and we'll see you here next week.